It has been 1 week since the residential real estate world was officially turned upside down and dropped on its head. What does this mean to home buyers? What does this mean to home sellers? And what does this mean for mortgage lenders? Today's episode, we're going to dive deep into answering and solving those questions. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children 18 plus, you are tuned in to the Loan Officer Podcast with me, Dustin Owen, and my main man,
JC.
John Coleman.
Yo, what's poppin'?
Dude, another day in paradise for you and I.
No.
Yes.
Kids are back in school.
Kids are back in school. Yes. Yes. You're starting officially next week as a full-time member of the lower family.
They don't know what kind of mistake they just made.
You are going to be joining James Duncan.
Shout out James.
Shout out to James. James Duncan heads up. Yeah. I don't even call lower like their marketing department. I refuse to. I call it a freaking marketing agency.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're going to be one of 9 marketing professionals, experienced marketing professionals
I wouldn't say
that are working under James Duncan's leadership.
I know.
We're super stoked to have you, John. So another day in paradise.
Yeah, I fucking bathed. So you see I changed my shirt for once. I don't have like the all black shirt I usually be wearing.
I like that.
You didn't even notice. You didn't even notice.
I did notice you were rocking the
TLOP.
TLOP.
You don't give a shit, Dustin.
Well, you don't do your hair. Occasionally you'll shave your head, and I do notice every time you do it, especially when you miss a couple of the hairs on top.
It's hard, man.
And by a couple of hairs, he only has a couple of hairs left on top, but he's holding on to those 2 or 3 hairs.
It's the stress of life.
Now it's turning 40. You turn 40 soon, don't you?
Yeah.
When's that? Your next birthday.
I'm an Aquarius.
All right, figured that one out, boys and girls. So no, today's episode is going to be pretty exciting, or not. Here's the deal. Okay, we talked incessantly as an industry.
Mostly you.
About, no, I meant the industry.
Oh, yeah.
It was not mostly us.
Yeah.
In fact, we tried to stay away from this. And I'm going to tell you why I tried to stay away from it as much as possible.
Let them know.
Hyperbole. If I said that
you added an extra syllable.
That's how we say things in Central Florida.
Hyperbole.
Hyperbole.
Spell it.
Hyperbole.
No ding, that's correct.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah, that's what happens when you marry an English teacher and you've been married for 22 years.
Send her that clip.
Send her that clip, yes. Yeah, she actually told me it was a turn on how grammatically correct I was writing papers in college. That's what made her want to date me.
Really? Before chat?
Way before chat, yes. Yeah, I'm terrible at spelling. I'm pretty decent at grammar, though.
But when you used to type in college, were you like the one finger, index finger kind of typer?
John, I failed typing in high school.
Shout out Mavis Beacon. That's why I didn't.
Okay, shout out Mavis Beacon.
You don't know
shout out to Miss Pond at Lyman High School because I put that lady through hell in 9th grade, and I earned my incomplete in her class.
Were you like a class clown? Were you disruptive a lot, or were you like
highly at that age? Yep. So nonetheless, no. Back on hyperbole.
Good job.
Yeah, hyperbole. I felt like the topic of the NAR Commission Settlement lawsuit for the weeks or months leading up to it. Look, it was big news when it was announced, and we covered it. We brought in our friend.
Shout out Cindy Velez.
Yeah, Cindy came in. Cindy's one of my favorite bosses I've ever had. She's a realtor. She's a lender. She's worked with Zenix. Like, she just knows her shit. She's a good human being, and she's local, so it's always nice that I can just text her. She can slide by the studio. She lives like 5 miles down the road, and we can put together some good content. And so we had her come on, and we did it. But most other requests, I kind of ignored them. Now, I had my friends in the industry, and man, they were just like, bam, 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 bam. It's all they wanted to talk about. And I was like, yo, let's wait until like middle of August. Let's wait for actually people to start living in this world. Let's get some feedback, and then let's start covering it. So today, we're going to discuss it because you and I can't ignore the request of our listeners, of our viewers, of our fans. And this is a topic y'all have been requesting, and I pushed it off and I pushed it off and I pushed it off. So push it off no more. We're going to discuss it now that we're a week since it went into like full effect.
Okay.
And I'm going to tease you. Go ahead and mark your calendars for September 26th. We're going to do a TLOP exclusive call. So exclusives mean if you get our newsletter, if you follow us on social, then we're going to invite you to one free coaching call every single month. So what makes it exclusive? It's exclusive to those people who listen, tune in, get our newsletter. That's what makes it exclusive. So it's a free coaching call. We're going to do it on September 26th, and here's what I'm going to do. I have 2 top producing LOs lined up. Okay. And by the way, these LOs don't work for my current company. They don't work for my old company. They don't even coach with us, which I have some badasses that coach for us. But they're top producers. One's in the Carolinas, one's in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm going to ask them to grab one of their more seasoned, insane realtor partners. And we're going to have those 4. We're going to be a month post the NAR Commission Settlement lawsuit, and we're going to be talking about the things that we're witnessing, experiencing, what we're overcoming, and maybe even some tips, tricks, or best practices that we've picked up.
Nice.
So go ahead and mark your calendars for that. It's probably going to end up being a 90-minute call. It's because it's going to be probably 50, 60 minutes of presentation and a full 30 minutes of Q&A.
Word.
Yep. And by the way, if you all want to know where we're going to be next, keep tuning in. At the end of the show, John and I going forward are going to start letting you all know where to find us next, how to contact us, or even how to book us for one of your next events. So the NAR Commission Settlement lawsuit. For those that have been living under a rock, or maybe you're a home buyer and or a home seller, so this isn't the space that you live in, can I go ahead and spend at least 2 or 3 minutes kind of giving a brief overview of what this means?
The National Association of Realtors.
Okay, that is what NAR is. Yes. But like, what is this? What is this like big news? Why are things going to change forever? How did real estate get turned upside down on its head?
Because realtors ain't getting paid as much as they used to, so now they're going to give a half-ass effort, and it's going to ruin everything.
Wrong answer.
Damn.
Wrong answer, John.
I didn't study. That's the
Yeah. No, let's start with this. Prior to this lawsuit, and then the defendant settling with the plaintiffs, and then the National Association of Realtors being forced to rework the way that they operate or the way that their members operate. It used to be this way. I'm going to list a house. I'm going to go ahead and agree that I'm paying a 6% or a 5% or a 4% commission. It was always negotiable, by the way, to the brokerage and the agent who was listing my house for me. And by the way, this is how things worked 98% of the time in 98% of the markets, right? There's always going to be an outlier to any story that you tell. So please do not blow us up with, well, this one time or where I live.
I love the engagement for the algorithm. Please send it.
Okay. This is how things work. So I would sign that agreement to list my home with that brokerage, with that agent representing me, and I'm paying X%. And then it's always common and customary for the brokerage and the listing agent who is representing me, the seller, they're going to share a portion of that with any agent who brought a home buyer into that property. It was called a co-broke. And sometimes they would split it 50-50. Sometimes they wouldn't. Sometimes I'd be paying a 5% commission. They would keep 3% for themselves and only give 2% to the buyer's agent. But that dollar amount, that percentage, was always openly marketed in the multiple listing service, the MLS. And so you knew, if you're John Coleman, the realtor, you're representing Dustin Owen, the home buyer, you knew that when you showed me that property, what your commission would be. Okay, you weren't going to negotiate with the seller to make your commission higher or lower. You weren't going to negotiate with the listing agent and their brokerage to pay you more or pay you less. You just knew. And through lawsuits, and a lot of them, and the penalties were in the hundreds of millions, close to the billions.
Word.
That was deemed to have violated antitrust law. Jeez. Okay. So things had to change. That is what we're talking about. Okay. The change is real estate agents, realtors, members of the NAR, the National Association of Realtors, they are not allowed, meaning they're prohibited from, they're not allowed to do this. They cannot list what the co-broke dollar amount would be in the multiple listing service, meaning John Coleman's a realtor, I'm a home buyer, and John's representing me. John still wants to get paid to represent me.
Give me Rex.
But what we don't know is Dustin Owen going to pay John Coleman out of my own pocket? Or is John Coleman going to be able to find Dustin Owen a home for sale? And is that seller going to be willing to financially incentivize John for bringing me, Dustin Owen, the home buyer, to buy this house? And it's a new phenomenon and one that we have virtually never worked under. Now, maybe if you're in Indiana or a state like that, maybe you've been operating this way since July, but most of the United States has been operating literally for 1 week under this new regulation. And it's been confusing, and it's going to be confusing. That's why we're going to do this webinar on September 26th is there's a lot of unknowns, and there's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of rumor, and there's a lot of hyperbole, which is why we wouldn't cover it besides the one time we covered it because it was breaking news and we had to at least discuss it. As a lender, I will tell you, I think this is the greatest thing that has been given to us as lenders when it comes to partnering with the real estate community.
Really? Do spill the tea, Dustin. Spill the tea.
I think it's that way. And a lot of my friends in the industry feel that way too, because anytime that a real estate agent is going to be negotiating an offer, they are going to have to work with the lender to determine how that offer can be best written so that the buyer can get the offer accepted, so that the buyer still qualifies for financing, and we need to solve for how is the buyer going to compensate the real estate agent who's representing them. And by the way, buyers, I'm going to tell you this, professional opinion. So in my humble experience, this is my advice to you. Do not go into any super big transaction unrepresented. Don't. Would you want to go into court not being represented? Now, you may go into mediation, but even in mediation, there's a disinterested third party who is helping you work through the challenges of disagreement. But you wouldn't walk into a courtroom unrepresented. Don't go into a transaction where it's going to be the largest purchase of your life. You're talking quarter, half, or even a full $1 million being unrepresented. So you're going to want representation. However, it used to be fully assumed and accepted that you would never have to pay out of your pocket. Again, never is a strong word. So rarely would you ever have to pay out of your pocket to compensate the professional that you selected to represent you. It was just assumed, it was standard practice that nope, that was already built into the sales price. That was already pre-negotiated, and the seller, when the home sold, was going to give a commission to the listing brokerage, and they were going to share a portion of that to your buyer's agent, to your representation. Well, going forward, that's not the case. So when I say it's the greatest opportunity for lenders, it's because I can prove my worth yet again. I can get closer, more connected, collaborate deeper with local real estate agents because they are going to need to actively communicate with me during the process, because we don't know going into that transaction who is going to pay the buyer's agent's representation fee, their commission. We have no idea. Now, the agent can easily pick up the phone. They can call the realtor on the other side who's representing the seller, and they can be like, hey, out of curiosity, how friendly is your seller? Right? How friendly? Oh yeah, my seller's friendly. We have the home listed at a price where they're anticipating being willing to also compensate you for bringing a buyer to them. All right, cool. That at least helps that realtor feel a little bit more comfortable. But let me walk you through what we've already witnessed one weekend. You ready for that?
Okay.
Before we do you have any questions? You look like you glossed over a little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow you. So does this mean like someone now has the upper hand since they don't have to disclose like how much they're going to, like what their fee is?
I don't think anyone has the upper hand per se, one way or the other. I think buyers, I think it's really different. It's a new world and we don't know enough. And I think we're going to spend the next 3, 6, even 9 months truly through trial and error and learning as you grow, like most of us do as entrepreneurs. We'll figure it out as an industry, meaning the real estate industry will figure it out. The lending world will figure it out. Home sellers and home buyers will figure it out. And then markets will start to create their own kind of way of doing things, their own flavor, their own culture. So, but I don't know if anyone has the upper hand. I do know if you're a home buyer, you can look at it two ways. One, if you don't have the money to pay for your agent and you're in a market where sellers are just dicks and they're not willing to participate, you could be hurt. Buyers could be hurt if they go and start to purchase real estate unrepresented. So that's something that is a fear amongst many in the industry. I also know that if you're a buyer, you may be able to negotiate better representation and cheaper representation, because before, a buyer would go find a buyer's agent. That buyer's agent would drive them around town, show them properties, help them write a contract. That was it. Well, now buyers are going to learn how to ask questions to the agent. Hey, John, walk me through the service you provide me. Why should I choose you over somebody else? What's your fee? How does your fee compare to someone else's fee? So a buyer could look at this twofold. One way would be, oh my gosh, I'm in a disadvantage because I'm going to have to purchase real estate unrepresented because I can't afford to pay for representation. That would be a negative. Or a buyer could look at this as a positive. Oh my goodness, I never knew that I should be interviewing agents, that agents should be having to prove their worth to me. And I didn't even know that I could negotiate what that commission's going to be. Because ultimately one could assume if they were buying a home and that seller was giving 3% commission to the agent representing me, the home buyer, does that mean I paid 3% more for the house? Possibly, but I could counter that and be like, no, you were still paying the same price for the house. If you weren't represented, you just would have put more money into the seller's pocket.
And my next question, because I'm feebly minding, like I'm kind of understanding this like a hard math problem when you kind of get the arithmetic. So back in the day, I used to represent you. I used to hop in my car, drive you around, find a house. Oh, you like that one? Cool. Sign. But my fee, like it was baked into whatever that is.
Yes.
Now, when you drive around, I'm like, hey man, you need to find someone to pick up my tab because I'm not free. And you're gonna be like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's gonna just weed out a lot of shitty realtors in.
Possibly. Yep. And that would be a good thing.
Right.
No different than, I mean, look, I don't want to be that dick, but
that's what's going to happen. Good. Get out of my play box.
Yes. This happened in the lending world 15, 16 years ago when we started having to have our NMLS license and fingerprinted and background checked. And it was like, look, there were certain people that shouldn't have been in the industry. Maybe they were hacks. Maybe they were part-time. Maybe they didn't take it serious and it weeded those people out. Therefore, those that were left were the true professionals who ended up with great careers, became advisors and still are advisors. And my industry became stronger. This could 100% do that for the real estate industry per se.
And then last question, this only affects if buyer's agents, right? Not the listing agent?
Correct. Okay. Listing agents, it's not, I mean, look, listing agents have things they can and can't do. Like they can't advertise the actual fee in the MLS, and listing agents are going to have certain conversations with their sellers to set proper expectations. And I'm going to talk about that because what I really want to get into is a post that I put up on the Mortgage Mafia private Facebook group. So Mortgage Mafia is a private Facebook group that I started because of the podcast, because of the audience and the popularity. And it's a group that you have to be a licensed originator to join. You have to be full-time to join. Like if you're not, I'm the admin, I won't let you in. It's that easy. We have a couple people who aren't particularly licensed originators, but they're the who's who of the mortgage industry and they bring value. Guys like Steve Richmond, or there's a friend of mine who's a VP of underwriting at an amazing mortgage company. She's a member because why wouldn't I want to have a badass underwriter as a member of the Mortgage Mafia? But I threw a post out like Monday or Tuesday and I was like, hey, here we are. We're post NAR Commission Settlement. What are y'all seeing? What are you witnessing? And man, ding, ding, boom, boom. Like it just went off like damn Christmas tree, which I appreciated. That's the purpose of this forum. It's like basically a true mastermind. We're not there to sell. We're not there to recruit, but we are there to serve each other and brainstorm and share ideas. And it was everything that I expected to happen. I was not shocked one bit. And it's every reason why we weren't talking about it the way that many others were leading up to it, and why we're going to dedicate a show today, a call on the 26th of September, and maybe nothing again till the beginning of next year on this topic. So here's what we're starting to experience. One person commented, tons and tons of confusion. I had a realtor, actually it was Cindy Velez, commented, and she goes, I'm loving it. I have never talked to more buyer's agents on my listings since pre-COVID, meaning she's like, yeah, we're getting back to actually professionals transacting and negotiating as humans over the phone. It's not just click button buy home, click button make offer. So she's like, for the most part, business as usual, but I'm definitely having more conversations. There's going to be plenty of horror stories of people who don't want to follow the rules, people who don't want to get in line, follow the yellow line, and not swerve, right? Those people are looking to, I'm going to work an angle. Oh, I'm going to show them. I'm going to outsmart them. It's like, why? Like, lose your license? But there's definitely people that are like joking about the ways that they're going to market their property and let people know that it's code broke friendly and post it somewhere. But hopefully those are the outliers and it's few and far between. And there's lenders who are stepping up and this is what I want really the audience to understand that I think is huge. There are lenders stepping up, and I wrote about this, and I think in one of the TLOP newsletters a couple of weeks ago. The lenders who are doing a really good job are having these conversations with their borrowers at pre-approval. The lenders who are doing a really good job are actually walking the home buyer, their borrower, through what the financial transaction would look like based on these 4 examples. The first example is, it's a traditional sale. It operates no different than sales have gone, meaning the seller is going to participate. It's already worked into the asking price. You're going to be able to negotiate regularly, and the seller will pay for your agent's commission as long as it's reasonable. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. I call that standard business as usual. Mm-hmm. Then there's hey, seller's going to work with you, but you're going to have to work it in as a closing cost credit, meaning when you make your offer and ask for a closing cost credit because the seller is going to use that credit to pay for your agent's commission. Mm-hmm. So sometimes that may mean, like if you're getting the home for $300,000 in example A, because it was just a traditional standard way we always did things, cool, you bought the home for $300,000. And in the second example, you may have bought the home for $309,000 because you went above asking. You're going to ask for a $9,000 closing cost credit so you can pay John Coleman, the realtor's commission. Your concern there is what if the home doesn't appraise? That's always your concern when you're trying to work closing cost credits into sales prices. Then you're going to have what I call the curmudgeon seller who just says, that's the law. I'm like, no, sir, it's not a law, but that's the law. I'm not paying. Screw you, etc.
NIMBY.
And that particular person, yeah, your cost to close on that house just went up $9,000. You're still getting the home for $300,000, but that seller is not going to play ball. So your agent's going to want to be compensated. You signed a buyer broker agreement. You signed that you were going to pay up to a certain amount in commission. You now have to ask yourself, do you have the racks, the cash? Do you have the fund set aside for down payment closing costs plus that $9,000?
Hell no. So what happens then when I don't?
It depends. So if you're putting down 3%, which is like one of the minimum down payments, and you don't have any more money, we may be SOL. Now, if you're putting down 5%, let's say it was a conventional loan, maybe I can flip you to FHA and have you put down 3.5%. Maybe I can flip you to a 97% conventional loan, and now you can, take that 2% that was going to go towards down payment, and now it goes towards paying realtor commission. Maybe you're putting down 10%, and now you're going to end up putting down what would end up being like 7%, right? There's definitely ways that lenders can get creative. Now, when a buyer ends up putting a lower amount down, it could impact their interest rate, and it could impact whether or not the loan needs mortgage insurance or how much that mortgage insurance would cost. So a really good lender is going to be able to have that third option where they show them, hey, ma'am or sir, here's where you can put down 15%, which means you're financing 85%. You're going to put down 15% instead of putting down 20%. Mm-hmm. And your payment's only going to be higher by $111 a month. And of that $111 a month, 70 of it is mortgage insurance, at which point there's a good chance you'll get that mortgage insurance removed in the next 2 or 3 years. And a really good lender is going to be able to tell that tell that buyer that, and by the way, the mortgage I'm doing for you today, it's probably the best mortgage for you for the next 2 or 3 years. More than likely in 2 or 3 years, if you haven't sold the home and paid it off, I'm going to be refinancing you. So don't think of this as, oh my gosh, I'm going to pay $71 more a month for the next 30 years. It's like, no. The mortgage insurance, which makes up a portion of that extra payment, will eventually fall off once you gain certain equity and you've made a certain amount of payments on time. And then there's a good likelihood that interest rates are going to be lower in 2 years, and I would refinance you to do two things: remove your MI and lower your interest rate. So a good originator is showing that as an option.
This is great, Dustin. Give me another comment because you're on fire. Keep going. Another comment from the Facebook group, Mortgage Mafia, that really chapped your ass.
I'm going to, but I'm going to go back and actually, I'm going to give a warning.
Uh-oh.
Because I talked about, by the way, to kind of put a bow on that, I said really good lenders are going to be able to show their prospective home buyers. And by the way, really good lenders are feeding this information and this knowledge to the realtors that they work with. And the realtors are referring those really good lenders that much harder because it's that much more important that their buyers are getting hooked in with a true professional who's an advisor and walks them through the 4 different options. Because we had the standard option. We had the standard, but I need you to increase and ask over. I need you to offer over asking so that you can, I'll work with you. Then you have the curmudgeons, right? Like the people who just won't deal with it. And then when that happens, the curmudgeon is truly, hey, your cash to close went up. And then when I was explaining all the variations of putting less down, taking on maybe mortgage insurance, or, that would be your 4th option. Mm-hmm. So if I'm giving 4 options to every home buyer, I'm showing them a standard. Okay. That's just the world we're used to. I'm showing them the standard, but you have to tack on the commission to the offer price. Then I'm showing them the worst case. You're going to pay full asking and you have to pay your realtor out of your pocket. And then I'm going to show them the 4th option is going to be what if you put less money down because the curmudgeon wasn't willing to pay your realtor, but you do have money in the bank. We can have you put down 3.5%, not 5, or we can have you put down 5% and not 10, or we can have you put down 15% and not 20. And then this is what your payment would look like. Those would be the 4 options every single home buyer should have. So if you're a real estate agent and you're working with lenders in your market, if your lenders aren't giving those 4 options, you should second guess if you're partnered with the right lender in your market. But then my advice to the curmudgeon, because I'm going off of the Mortgage Mafia Facebook group, the advice to the curmudgeon is this, and it's a thought, it's a hypothesis. What if by not being willing to negotiate and collaborate with buyers representation, you eliminated half the buyers in the market?
Dummy.
Okay. And with half the buyers in the market being eliminated, true value is always set by someone's willingness to pay a price for an item. So you want as many eyeballs and as many offers so that you can make sure you're getting the highest and best for your property. Well, the minute that you want to be a curmudgeon and you don't want to participate, great. You just eliminated half the buyer pool. And then how about this? What do you think home builders are doing? Because home builders don't list their homes in MLS typically. Okay, so home builders right now, they're marketing, I'll pay you 4%, John, to bring a home buyer to me. I'll pay you 6% in certain markets. I've seen this. I'll pay you 6%, John. Come bring one of your buyers to my brand new community. Use my lender, my title company, plus I'll pay $12,000 towards the buyer's closing cost and a 6% commission to you. Okay, well, guess what those buyers are doing? They're not looking at all those resale homes that are sitting in the MLS. No, they're now looking at new construction, even if they have to drive 15 minutes further out of town in order to get to that new construction community. Even if there isn't a Publix supermarket within 2 miles yet, although Publix is going to be there quickly if it's a really good community. Within minutes, you're going to see Publix coming soon. Yeah, so I just threw it out there. Look, will home builders, this is my thought of the day, will home builders be the great equalizer and the great stabilizer for life post the NAR Commission lawsuit settlement? Because at the end of the day, as a seller, I am competing against all other sellers, whether it's a seller of a resale home in my community, or it's a seller of a new construction home at a community 5 miles down the road. And if the builders are still willing to play ball and compensate buyers agents to bring buyers to their community, and I'm not willing to, I now put myself in a competitive disadvantage, which then I'm going to circle back to that word I couldn't pronounce, but I could spell, hyperbole, and say, is all of this just a bunch of hyperbole? Because at the end of the day, we're going to look back in a year and be like, what was all that fuss about?
Yes, Dustin, I can answer that. As a matter of fact, this is all hyperbole because people need clickbait and content to drive the content engine of YouTube and social media.
To a certain degree, right? And you and I may be doing this content right now because it's topical and relevant, right?
Exactly.
But, the industry, those realtors and those brokerages and those mortgage, you and I travel the country together.
As we have.
Right. And when we speak in front of national audiences, and look, if you're a mortgage lender, the real estate community is your number one client. They are your number one client. We serve them.
Hold on. Didn't the mortgage community just go through like a rough patch, right? When like it weeded out, right? Is that okay? So
like
now
the last 3 years?
Yeah. So hold on. Now it's just like the universe equalizing itself. Now it's the realtor's turn to feel some pain, right?
Well, they were feeling the pain too because home sales dropped to like an abysmal all-time low. So realtors have been feeling the same pain as lenders.
So we should all feel misery loves company or some shit?
I mean, not really, but
okay.
I mean, yes. Look, I love company. I don't love being miserable. I love company.
Right.
I prefer to be doing like some fun shit, travel, party, with company. Mm-hmm. But yes, there's a saying, John, misery does love company. But no, this is what we're seeing and hearing currently within our communities, our reach, our network of professionals. And they're literally from Spokane to Key West and everywhere in between. What we are starting to witness is everything we expected, right? Some people, business as usual.
Right.
Some people, like I heard a horror story. This person's like my agent called ahead, talked to the seller's agent. Seller's agent said, we're going to play ball. My seller's fully prepared to compensate buyer representation. Awesome. They called the lender. They walked through what their offer was going to be. The lender's like, great, this is what your payment's going to be. This is what your cash to close is going to be. You're still going to qualify. Buyer's like, I'm comfortable with that payment. I'm comfortable with the cash to close. They started negotiating. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, when the final negotiation was presented from seller to buyer, there was no buyer agent co-broke. Like they literally pulled the rug from underneath them. Bait and switch.
I didn't think you read that far into the contract.
Bait and switch. So like that's a horror story. But, Laura up in Atlanta, she's like, man, she closes like 80, 90, 100 million a year. And she's like, man, my agents and I are pretty dialed in. We're dialed in. They're signing the buyer broker agreement. The sellers in the Atlanta market that we're dealing with, their sellers are pretty dialed in. They're well educated.
Hold on. Hold on.
It's just a couple more phone calls and a couple more pieces of paperwork is what others have told me.
Right. But if this is the first time I'm buying a home, would I even know the difference?
You wouldn't.
So what this only affects people buying like their second and third home.
Well, but at the end of the day, I will tell you this, John, as a home buyer, when I was 24, 25 years old, living in West Palm Beach, trying to buy my first house,
Rex.
I knew nothing. And one of my biggest concerns was I don't want a realtor. Like I didn't know any better. I wanted to go underrepresented because I didn't want to pay money. Well, I've learned as an adult, like at 24, my brain wasn't even fully developed, right? The adult male's brain, I think, stops developing around 26.
Still working on mine.
Well, correct. You're a little bit of a slow learner, John. We know that about you. Prep school, college prep school, like tutors for SATs. Like we know your story. But, I didn't want an agent because I didn't want to pay the money. But then I learned, oh, no, you don't pay the buyer's agent. The seller does. I was like, oh, damn, then give me one of these.
Right.
Now, by the way, my realtor, when I finally did buy a house, sleazily, she slid a $495 processing fee. And I showed up to closing. I'm like, what's this? She goes, did you not read your contract? I'm like, what do you mean? I go, yeah, I read the first 2 pages where we were negotiating the sales price and the closing date.
Got to get to that third
She goes,
page.
well, my brokerage makes me pay it. And it's on page 19 of 20. You should have read it. I was like, damn.
I would have been like, yo, I'm not buying the house. Nobody's getting paid off this transaction. I would have walked.
I would not have. No. I had a moving van full. I had a pregnant wife. We were buying that damn house. No, but anyhow, back in the day when I was a home buyer, especially a first-time home buyer, right? Or a home buyer who's a first generation home buyer. Like, we needed to know that we didn't have to worry about not being represented and having to pay for it. Because look, I was rubbing two nickels together trying to come up with down payment and closing costs. And when I bought my first house, true story, I was able to come up with the money needed for down payment, the 5% down. Do not ask me how I did it, because it is not advisable.
Damn.
It was a little bit of some help from dad, and maybe, allegedly, I didn't pay any of my bills for 30 days. I put it all on a credit card. True story.
It's the American dream, Dustin.
And that's how I raised my 5% down.
Yeah.
And then I quickly had to re-gift my dad the money he gave me over the course of like 6 months. And then we were able to get the seller to pay my closing costs. That's how I was able to buy my first house. I probably wasn't ready, but I was eager. And sometimes eagerness gets in the way of readiness. So if you are a first-time home buyer, like I get what you're saying. Like, why does it matter? It does matter, because we don't want any buyer going unrepresented. And most first-time home buyers, first-generation home buyers, they barely have enough money for down payment and closing costs to tack on another 1.5% to 3% of a $300,000 or $400,000 purchase. That could be what prevents them or keeps them from achieving the American dream, and we don't want that as an industry.
Well said, Dustin.
Yeah. So y'all do this. I'd love to hear from y'all. So use the comment sections on our YouTube channel. Unfortunately, Spotify and Apple don't give us a way to let y'all comment. But if you want to comment and you want to share your experiences, go to our YouTube channel, watch the episode there, subscribe, and then use your comments. Make sure you mark your calendar for September 26th. If you're not receiving our newsletter, that means you're not going to receive the official invite. So do yourself a favor, go to our website, tloponline.com. At the very top, you can sign up for the newsletter. It's free. Newsletter comes out every single Thursday, and it's through that email distribution that you'll be invited to all the cool shit that we do and all the exclusives. So that's your way of doing it. And while you're on the website, if you're at a point in your life and your career where you need business coaching and sales training, and I'm going to tell you need it. It's a matter of, are you willing to listen to me? And are you willing to invest in your future success? We have 1 or 2 spots left in our super successful, highly sought after course. It's intensive. It's called LO Launch. So you can look into joining LO Launch, where the results are crazy. And if that's not your jam and you just want to like join our community and be a part of our coaching program in general, you can do that too. That's called the TLOP MLO coaching community. And finally, John, we promised everyone, if you want to know where we're going to be next, and you don't want to go follow me on LinkedIn, first name Dustin, last name Owen, here's where we're going to be next. I'm going to be at the NAMA event in Orlando. That is August 21st through 23rd. I'm going to be at Jacksonville at FAMP on the Run on August 22nd. I'm going to be up in New England, actually Portsmouth, New Hampshire, for the New England Mortgage Bankers Conference. That's going to be around September 14th, 15th, 16th. Then I'm going to be sliding over to Arkansas for the MBA of Arkansas's annual conference. That's the beginning of October. Also in October, you have to be working out Lower in order to be at this event, but I'm doing Lower's annual sales conference up in Columbus, Ohio, before I head out to Denver, Colorado for MBA annual. All of this can be found if you frequently go to our website, and you can see a section on the main page called Where Will They Be Next? And if you ever want to book us for one of your events, just reach out to us. The easiest way is probably go through me right now. First name Dustin, last name Owen. Find me on LinkedIn. Or Nikki Ray's our VP of Everything Marketing and Client Relations. Her name is spelled Nikki. So Nikki at tloponline.com is a phenomenal email address. Follow her on LinkedIn as well. Last name is spelled RHEA. So first name Nikki, last name Ray. He's John Coleman. I'm Dustin Owen. You have just tuned in to the Loan Officer Podcast. That is all the time we have for today, but we do look forward to catching you on the next episode. Peace.